Welcome to this explainer. So today we are diving into a really fascinating 2022 essay by Zhou Fang. It makes a pretty bold, totally unconventional argument. Actual spiritual success requires treating self-improvement not as some mystical art, but as a rigorous, hard science. We're going to unpack exactly what that means and how it completely challenges centuries of tradition. Now, the essay kicks off with this massive historical question. Think about it. Throughout Chinese history, millions of people have actively sought immortality, right? Millions have studied Buddhism to become Buddhas. Millions have learned Qigong hoping to unlock supernatural powers. But how many actually hit those ultimate goals? The author points out it's barely a drop in the bucket. Why do so many folks dedicate their entire lives to learning, yet so incredibly few actually succeed? To figure out why so many seekers end up failing, we're going to follow the author's four-part roadmap. First, the seeker's ultimate dilemma. Second, the missing link, science. Third, critiquing culture and tradition. And finally, the true scientific path. So let's jump right into part one, the seeker's ultimate dilemma. The author hits us with a major root cause for this huge spiritual failure rate. The trap? People treat self-cultivation like this abstract metaphysical concept instead of a verifiable scientific discipline. And by stripping away the science, practitioners are basically throwing away their ability to guarantee any real results. It's a huge blind spot. Which brings us perfectly to part two, the missing link, science. Now, when the text says science here, we're not talking about guys in lab coats with test tubes. No, true science in this context boils down to three strict elements: finding correct laws, verifying those laws, either on yourself or others, and then following specific methods. It's about having a rock-solid formula that actually works every single time you apply it. And that requires a really rigorous journey. First up, you absolutely have to lock in a definite purpose. Second, you find the law, which is basically your roadmap. Third, and this is crucial, you prove it works. You verify that the law is actually effective. And fourth, only after you've verified the law do you apply the method. If you skip even one of these steps, the whole system just falls apart. Without that very first step, locking in your purpose, you're completely adrift. The source uses this striking metaphor. It's like a leaf blown by the autumn wind in the wilderness. You know, you're moving around a lot, sure, but you're getting absolutely nowhere on purpose. If you don't know your destination, your efforts just scatter to the wind. All right, let's turn to part three, critiquing culture and tradition. Here, the text really draws a line in the sand between traditional metaphysics and science. Metaphysics, well, it leans heavily on ambiguous, unquantifiable stuff, things like mind or innate knowledge. Science, on the other hand, absolutely demands quantifiable laws and hard, verifiable evidence. The author argues that if you can't quantify a practice and prove it gives a specific result, you just can't rely on it. You're basically gambling with your life's progress. And the author doesn't pull any punches with vast traditions like Taoism and Buddhism, pointing out they completely lack the scientific baseline. For instance, the text notes that Shakyamuni Buddha taught for 49 years, only to conclude the Dharma couldn't be expressed in words. That eventually led to a Zen tradition built on unquantifiable heart-to-heart transmission. Plus, traditions love to say there are 84,000 ways, or all roads lead to Rome, but the text drops a hard truth here. These unverified roads, they might take you a million miles away from your goal, or literally in the exact opposite direction. The essay then takes aim at a whole list of common practices. We're talking sitting cross-legged, yoga, training of qi, fasting, chanting mantras, vipassana, burning incense, all of it. Because there's no quantifiable scientific framework behind them, the author frames these as basically just playing with concepts and dressing things up in fancy phrases. Without verifiable laws, the essay claims these practices offer very few actual benefits and might even hold you back. Expanding this critique out to broader Chinese culture, the author points straight to Wang Yangming's incredibly influential philosophy of mind. Its core ideas, like mind as principle or the extension of innate knowledge, are called out as prime examples of unquantifiable concepts wrapped up in super ambiguous methods. The text poses a really tough question. How on earth can you build a scientific method on something as fuzzy as innate knowledge? The text even puts modern political and cultural slogans, like realizing the Great Rejuvenation, under this exact same scientific microscope. The author impartially asks, what exactly are we rejuvenating if we don't have specific scientific methods? Are we bringing back the tyranny of King Qin? Is it yin and yang? Bound feet? By throwing out these historical examples, the text argues that without a concrete, quantifiable method, slogans like this have zero scientific spirit. They're just an impractical bowl of ecstasy soup. So, if all these traditional and cultural methods are flawed, what's the actual fix?
That brings us to our final section, Part 4, the true scientific path.
According to the text, genuine self-improvement has one and only one definite, verifiable purpose, and that is making life happy, joyous, free, and blessed, while letting life continue to sublimate. Basically, elevating and purifying it to its absolute highest state. That is your quantifiable destination. If what you're doing isn't verifiably making you happier and freer, then guess what? Your roadmap is just wrong. To actually hit that target, the explainer lays out a strict 3-step scientific method. Step 1, repay your debts and end your secular ties. Step 2, make contributions to accumulate merit. And step 3, perfect the non-material structure of life. The author stresses that these aren't just vague ideas. They have super clear connotations. They are tangible, solid actions that you have to constantly verify and advance, step by step. And there is a massive warning here. Ignoring this scientific structure means you're just engaging in nonsense talk and senseless acts. Without science, self-improvement is literally just elusive thinking. The tragic reality, according to the text, is that you could spend years, decades, maybe even your whole life trying so hard, only to wake up one day and realize you're standing in the exact same spot you started. So I want to leave you with a final, really provocative question straight from the core of this essay. As you're working on your own growth and seeking improvement, do you actually have a scientifically verifiable roadmap? Or are you just relying on unquantifiable traditions drifting around like a leaf in the autumn wind? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking those hard questions, and we'll catch you next time.